Almost every soccer fan has seen this pass from Guti, a backheel assist so outrageous. The defenders literally froze, unable to process what had just happened. Many of the greatest names in football have called him one of the most gifted midfielders of his generation. Some even believe that in terms of pure talent, he belonged in the same conversation as Zidane, Xavi, and Iniesta. So that raises an obvious question. Why does almost nobody talk about Guti today? How did a player with this level of talent never become a true global legend? During 15 years at Real Madrid, he had everything a footballer could dream of. The biggest club in the world, world-class teammates, legendary managers, and countless opportunities to make history. But every single time it seemed like his era was finally about to begin. Something happened that pushed him right back into the shadows. So what really destroyed Guti's career? Was it Real Madrid, or did he ruin it himself? If you think the answer is obvious, don't be so sure, because by the end of this video, there's a good chance you'll change your mind. More than once. If you've never watched Guti play a full match, explaining his talent through pure statistics is impossible. He was a player who broke defenses not with speed, not with dribbling, and not even with shooting. He broke them with his mind. While other midfielders looked for the safest option, Guti looked for the most unpredictable one. Sometimes it felt like he was making things difficult on purpose. Instead of a simple pass, a back heel. Instead of an obvious cross, threading the ball between three defenders. Instead of shooting, a razor-sharp through ball out of nowhere. He played as if the word safe simply didn't exist in his vocabulary. And that is exactly why defenders absolutely hated playing against him. His own teammates later admitted that half the time they had no idea where he was going to pass the ball, but if he possessed such a rare generational gift, why isn't his name mentioned alongside Zidane or Pirlo? To answer that question, we have to go all the way back to where it all started. When a 10-year-old boy first stepped into the Real Madrid academy, no one could have imagined how controversial his career would become. But one thing was obvious right away. The talent was unreal. You can't teach someone to see the pitch like that. You have to be born with it. Guti spent almost 9 years in the Real Madrid youth system. For a club of that massive size, that is an eternity. It meant they saw him as the undeniable future leader of the team, while other young players were just dreaming of a single first-team appearance. Guti was being prepared to run the show. The script seemed perfectly written. In 1999, Clarence Seedorf leaves Madrid. The exact spot Guti had been waiting for finally opens up. This was supposed to be the start of his era, but just a few months later, the first major red flag appeared. During a match against Real Sociedad, Guti completely loses his temper. He violently kicks an opponent on the ground and gets the first red card of his professional career. Back then, people blamed it on his youth. Just a passionate kid losing his cool, right? No one knew that these explosive outbursts were about to become the defining story of his career. But at the time, that red card felt like a minor detail because a massive opportunity was right around the corner. One that could have turned Guti into Real Madrid's ultimate superstar. In the 2000 to 2001 season, Madrid's main striker, Fernando Morientes, suffers a severe injury. What does a striker's injury have to do with a central midfielder? Everything. Instead of buying a new forward, the coaching staff made a shocking decision. They put Guti up front. On paper, it was a terrible idea. His entire life, he had created chances for others. Now he was expected to finish them. Everyone thought the experiment would fail miserably. But Guti didn't just survive. He delivered one of the best seasons of his entire career. In 46 matches, he scored 18 goals and provided 7 assists. For a guy who had never been a classic number 9, these numbers were insane. It seemed the coaches had no choice left. If a player is this good, even playing out of position, you build the team around him, right? But exactly at that moment, Real Madrid's board began building a project that would go down in history as the Galacticos. In the summer of 2001, Zinedine Zidane arrives in Madrid. And from that moment on, Guti's life turned into an endless search for his place on the pitch. He had just gotten used to playing up front, but now he was pushed back into the midfield. He had just started to feel like a leader, but now every attack went through Zidane. And if it had stopped there, maybe history would have been different. But exactly 1 year later, Ronaldo arrives in Madrid. The Brazilian phenomenon. The best striker on the planet. Any conversation about Guti playing as a forward died the exact second the Brazilian put on that white shirt. So he had to find a new spot in the midfield. But there was almost no room left there either. Zidane was running the show. Luis Figo owned the right wing. Roberto Carlos was dominating the left. In a team overflowing with superstars, Guti slowly became the guy who could be plugged in anywhere. At first glance, that sounds like a compliment. A versatile player is a manager's dream, right? But in football, versatility can become a curse because versatile players are rarely made the centerpiece of a project. They are used to plug holes. Every time Guti started to feel confident in one position, the club made another move. In 2003, David Beckham arrives, another global icon, another player automatically placed above him in the hierarchy. Imagine being in his shoes. You spend 9 years in the academy. You prove you can play anywhere. But every single summer, the board buys a new Ballon d'Or winner, and you are forced to take a step back. This is exactly why many fans still believe that Real Madrid never allowed their homegrown genius to reach his full potential. But blaming Real Madrid for everything is only half the truth, because while the club was pushing him out of the spotlight, Guti was actively destroying himself from the inside. Remember that first red card we talked about? That wasn't an accident, it was a warning. Throughout his professional career, Guti received 28 red cards. Let that sink in. For a creative, attacking midfielder, that number is absolutely insane. He wasn't getting sent off for tactical fouls to save his team. He was getting sent off because he simply couldn't control his demons. He would aggressively argue with referees. He would kick opponents out of pure frustration. And in one infamous, ugly moment, he even spat at a rival player. When things went wrong on the pitch, Guti didn't fight back with his football. He fought back with his anger. And outside the pitch, things weren't much better. The Spanish press absolutely loved to destroy him. They called him lazy, arrogant, undisciplined. They criticized his late-night partying and his rock star lifestyle. And the hardest part to admit, they weren't entirely wrong. Guti wanted to be treated like a superstar, but he rarely worked like one. So, who really destroyed the career of Real Madrid's homegrown genius? Did the club fail him by constantly buying expensive new toys and pushing him aside? Yes. But mostly, the answer is Guti himself. He refused to adapt. He refused to be a machine in a highly tactical system. He chose to be an artist, and true artists are rarely consistent. Which brings us exactly where we started. That night against Deportivo, that famous backheel assist, he is one-on-one with the goalkeeper. The obvious choice, just shoot and score. That's what 99% of professional players would do, but Guti's brain didn't work like the rest of them. In a fraction of a second, he senses Karim Benzema running behind him and delivers a pass that completely defies logic. In that single breathtaking moment, you see his entire career, pure magic, absolute madness, and a complete refusal to do what is expected of him. He never won a Ballon d'Or. He never became the definitive face of a generation. But while others chased statistics and individual awards, Guti left us with moments of pure art. And sometimes, that is worth much more.